I am not done talking about Chuck Schumer's failure of leadership. Now, of course, the overwhelming responsibility for what took place on Sunday lands squarely on the shoulders of Donald Trump, John Thune, and Mike Johnson. It is not the Democratic Party that is going to see 50,000 Americans a year die unnecessarily because of these cuts to health care. But we didn't stop them. Chuck Schumer didn't stand in their way. He did not continue to fight back. He allowed and orchestrated this capitulation to Trump, and it is why we are seeing Democrats speaking out. And the biggest bombshell from a Democrat yet just came from Bernie Sanders. We're going to get into it all and why it should mean the end for Chuck Schumer's career. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button because it goes a long way in supporting our work. Now, before we get into what Bernie said, I want to start with another Democratic leader calling out Schumer, calling out these 8 senators. It's Governor Gavin Newsom right here. It is important right now that we not only hear from these leaders in the party who aren't in Congress, who are governors, who are state representatives, who are just big voices in the party, because I want people to know that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries aren't the Democratic Party. They are the leaders in their respective chambers, but they are not our entire party. Our party is not about corporate donations. Our party is not about AIPAC dollars. Our party is not going to capitulate to Donald Trump and then write him a strongly worded letter. There are Democrats who are actually ready to fight, real progressive Democrats who want big systemic change, and those are the people that we need to uplift. And when they do not do so, when we see the corporate Dems fold, when we see people bought out by the crypto, by the oil, by the AIPAC lobby, we call them out. And we make it clear why they are folding and what will happen next. And Bernie did that here.
And my friends, know what you are voting on. Studies are out there that when you throw 15 million people off of health care, some 50,000 of our fellow Americans will die unnecessarily every single year. Anyone think that's funny? Something to laugh at? Something to just go past? I don't. 50,000 Americans die unnecessarily. Now, I know as part of this resolution that the majority leader is going to say, well, Democrats can put together their own bill, and it will come to the floor here in the Senate for a vote. As everybody here knows, that is a totally meaningless gesture. You can get 100 votes here in the Senate. Won't mean anything because the House is not going to take it up, and the President of the United States certainly will not sign it.
This is not a negotiation when people's lives are at stake. It's really easy to talk about the political calculation and say, well, Democrats, maybe this was a good move because the media is going to do it. I don't care. If people's lives are at stake, it is really easy to do the political theory when you're not worried about getting kicked off your health care. And that's all Bernie's worried about. He's not worried about the political theater. And so, of course, people have been asking if Chuck Schumer, the man who orchestrated this caving, I don't care that he voted no. He's the leader. If he can't keep his caucus in line, he shouldn't be the leader, and he shouldn't be the leader. We know that's the case. When Bernie Sanders was asked whether or not Chuck Schumer should stay on as leader, the answer that he gave was so important that I think we need to take a look and then talk about it in its context.
Look, what you got right now, Chuck Schumer is part of the establishment. And I'm sorry to say that many people in the Democratic caucus are part of it. I would say we have 8 or 9 out of 47 people who I would consider to be progressives. So you can argue, and I can make the case that Chuck Schumer has done a lot of bad things. But I think getting rid of him, who's going to replace him? Who is going to replace him? The issue right now is doing primaries, getting people involved in the political process who are going to create a government and an economy that works for everybody, who have the guts to take on the oligarchs. So I think we need to take on the Democratic establishment all over this country.
The morning after the shutdown, Bernie Sanders also made another announcement that wasn't just having to do with Chuck Schumer, because Peggy Flanagan, who is running for Senate in Minnesota, wrote, Bernie Sanders has fought for working families since day one. He's built a movement that is taking on special interest and fighting for an economy that works for everyone. I'm honored to have earned his endorsement of my campaign for U.S. Senate. So why that announcement was so important from Bernie after what he said about Chuck Schumer, which there's a little bit of credibility to, but I want to get into it all, is because Angie Craig, who is running against Peggy Flanagan, she's a member of the House, is the Chuck Schumer-backed candidate. And Bernie said, I am backing Peggy Flanagan, right? This is the candidate who will stand up to corporate donations, which she is not taking. She will say no to AIPAC dollars, which she is not taking. She is a real, tried and true progressive. She's also the lieutenant governor of Minnesota. Peggy Flanagan, that endorsement. Well, let's look at that endorsement in context. Bernie has also endorsed in the Michigan primary Abdul Al-Sayed, who is a candidate we've had on this show a couple of times, who I want y'all, if you are in Michigan, to look up and to back. But who did Chuck Schumer endorse in that race? Who is the establishment getting behind? Haley Stevens. Let's look at another endorsement Bernie has made recently. Bernie endorsed Graham Plattner in Maine, who is now running against Janet Mills, who has the backing of Chuck Schumer. So what is Bernie doing? He is saying it is not just enough to say that we need a new leader in the Senate. And of course, he didn't go as hard as I would have liked for Bernie to say. Chuck Schumer should lose his job right now. But what Bernie is saying is that it's not about just right now. If you want to get rid of Chuck Schumer, you also have to get rid of the culture of Chuck Schumer, the corporate Dem culture. Bernie said in that video, there's only about 8, 9 real progressives in the United States Senate. Bernie is saying it's not just enough to get rid of the leader of the establishment. You have to get rid of the establishment. That is why he is endorsing progressive candidates. That is why he is backing them loudly, why he is going to their states, why he is throwing his support behind them. And that is so much bigger. That is so much bigger than just saying Chuck Schumer should lose his job. That is so much more transformative, and that's exactly what Bernie does. It should come as no surprise to him that Bernie is trying to transform our politics to make sure that our party is not taking corporate money, that's not being lobbied by a foreign government, that our party stands up for working people. And that is why Bernie isn't just trying to change Senate leadership, he is trying to change the United States Senate. Peggy Flanagan, Graham Plattner, Abdul Al-Sayed. Please do check out their campaigns. This will be the most important, maybe year of primaries we have ever seen. What happens in 2026 might be more important than what happens in a Democratic primary in 2028. I'm not even exaggerating there. Showing that the Democratic base is behind progressive leaders who will reject corporate money, won't take that PAC money, who can't be influenced by anyone but their voters. That will color the entire 2028 election. And I think it's really important that we make it clear right now, as the base of the party, no matter how pissed off you are at Democrats, that this is our party and that we should shape it. We should take it back. That is going to color everything. And that's what Bernie is doing. And that is a bombshell announcement. And so coming out of this shutdown, I know it feels like the Democratic Party is broken, but it's also our time to shape it and to fix it and to make it look as we feel. And so this is an exceptional opportunity, and I'm glad that Bernie's leading the way on it. And we need other progressive voices to come out and advocate for these candidates. I'm going to be having Graham Plattner on soon. I'm going to be having Peggy Flanagan on soon. Again, we've had Abdul Al-Sayed on soon, or already, but we're going to have him again on soon. That's what we need to be doing, using our voices and not just saying Chuck Schumer's got to go, but the people who are advocating for that as well, who are running for the Senate right now, also need to be backed by us. And so that's a bombshell. And it's not the only bombshell that comes at the end of the shutdown, because I am not done talking about Epstein, and neither is Lawrence O'Donnell.
The top Democrat on the House Judiciary Committee, Jamie Raskin, has some questions for Donald Trump, which he put in writing and sent directly to Donald Trump at the White House. Congressman Raskin tells Donald Trump in writing, quote, "You have adamantly refused to release the Epstein files despite campaigning on their release. You lied when you denied authoring a lewd and incriminating birthday note to Jeffrey Epstein, and you ridiculously claimed that your unmistakable signature on that note was not your signature. You shut down the Department of Justice's ongoing investigation into Epstein's co-conspirators, and you expressly declined to rule out pardoning his main accomplice, convicted child sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. The House Committee on the Judiciary has now received whistleblower information indicating that this cover-up goes even further into the Department of Justice and Bureau of Prisons than was known before. Documents and information received over the last several days by this committee indicate that under Dr. Tanisha Hall, the warden of federal prison Camp Bryan, the federal law enforcement staff working at the camp have been waiting on Ms. Maxwell hand and foot. This information also indicates that Ghislaine Maxwell is working on filing a commutation application with your administration, demonstrating either that Ms. Maxwell is herself requesting you release her from her 20-year prison sentence for her role as a conspirator in Jeffrey Epstein's international child sex trafficking ring, or that this child sex predator now holds such tremendous sway in the second Trump administration that you and your Department of Justice will follow her clemency recommendations.
Keep it going. Don't stop talking about Epstein. I am not going to. We are always going to on this show. If you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. Leave a like on this video. If you stuck around at the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. You can also follow the show or follow me on Instagram at JD Cocchiarella. I've seen a lot of y'all ask how to pronounce my last name. It is Cocchiarella. You can just call me Jack. It's a tough one. Us Italians, we're not making it easy on you. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.